How's everybody doing today? Good. Okay. Well, obviously, most of you guys are from events, so you all know I have the snooze slot, which usually means everybody's had a very long lunch and it's a little bit dozy and it's very warm in here. So it's my job to make sure you're all very much awake, which is good. So as Nick mentioned, I'm going to be talking about sponsorship. Just a little bit about me. This is my Twitter handle, and Luann, who follows me, will be talking a lot about social media and how you can tweet and learn about hashtags, so this will be for future reference. And a little bit about our agency. Slingshot Sponsorship is based in central London. We've also got a European office in Oslo. We have kind of come about in a new wave of sponsorship. So traditionally, I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of the newspapers. Most of the sponsorship you're probably familiar with is the Olympics or huge multi-million-pound kit deals that Chelsea or Man U have done. The recent thing with the golf guy who just sold or just did a £150 million deal. And although those are very exciting and very cool, it doesn't ever talk about the sponsorship that you guys are likely facing. And some amazing stuff can be done. So or at least my bread and butter with sponsorship is actually event sponsorship like you've done before. So I'm going to go into a little bit about the tips and how to kind of look at best practice, but also, you know, just a couple tweak things that you can do that can actually change the way you go about getting sponsorship, which will help in terms of being much more successful than hopefully you have been in the past. If you want some more information about Slingshot, our website is slingshotsponsorship.com. And in terms of our clients, so we've been going for almost 3 years, but we've grown dramatically since then. But as you can see, we work with a lot of corporates and a lot of events. So Haymarket Consumer Media, Red Bull, BBC Worldwide, British Heart Foundation, D&AD, a bunch of it. So in terms of event sponsorship, we know quite a lot about it. But I only have 10 minutes, so I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet. But I'll be here after as well, so you can ask questions. And of course, we'll have the Q&A as well. So let's crack on. Why sponsorship? You know, I think the obvious thing is money. That's why people would do sponsorship. But actually, sponsorship works because of all of the reasons that you see here. It's interactive. It creates fan loyalty. It allows you to develop brand experiences. So I wouldn't say prior to sponsorship, but typical communication with brands has always been very a one-way. So they've always kind of communicated at you. So you'd see stuff on billboards or advertisements, and it's never really allowed for an interaction. So if a brand, let's just use sustainability because we'll be talking about it later. If a brand says, I'm green, they'll tell you that you're green through, you know, a one-way communication. Things have really changed with the advent of social media, where you can now actually question people. So going, you know, into something that's a bit easier to kind of use, Hilton Hotels, if they say, I'm the best hotel in the world, Park Lane, it's amazing, this is the reason, look at our beds, they're great. If you see an ad like that, you can go and then you can stay there. If I didn't like it, I could, this is before social media, I could go and tell my friend Emma that actually it was a horrible place to stay, never stay there again. And she wouldn't go. Now, actually, because we've got TripAdvisor, I could tell millions of people not to stay there. So that changes so many things. And actually, sponsorship is a way for brands to kind of interact in that space, but doing it quite effectively. So it's worthwhile considering that and making sure that you're paying attention to Luann's conversation, which will feed into this. And obviously, mutual benefits. Everybody wants to benefit from relationships. I think that just goes without saying. And leading on from that, when you're looking at, this is kind of a very basic thing. When you're looking at integrating sponsorship with your events, the key thing that you want to remember is to try to create something where it's a benefit for everyone. And so if you're going to get money, which is always good, that's a benefit for you, you have to make sure that you're giving something back to the brand. But also, you should be thinking about how well that fits for your audience. If it's just kind of a corporate coming in, giving you money, throwing some logos, it's not really adding value to the people that are attending your events. It's not a good sponsorship deal. It's not a bad sponsorship deal, but actually sponsorship can be much better than that. And when you actually start thinking about everybody involved with your events, you can actually make sponsorship work much, much better and more sustainable. So when the audience loves the sponsorship, obviously the brand's going to love the sponsorship, and obviously you're going to be happy because they're going to renew quite quickly. So we'll go into a couple tips. So the first one, it's not about logos. So just to make sure you're all awake, does anybody know why there's cupcakes? Come on. I'm gonna pick on somebody. Does anybody know? I won't pick on somebody. Okay. The reason is logos are the icing on the cake. So if you are selling a sponsorship package and you say, this is amazing because I can put your logo on my ticket or my brochure and it'll be on my website and everybody's gonna see your logo. There's not gonna be anybody who doesn't see your logo's gonna be everywhere. And that's all you offer. It's gonna be unlikely that brands will actually want to pay for that because in some cases, some people will, but that's not really what sponsorship is about. Sponsorship is the actual cake. So sponsorship is actually what you're trying to communicate, what the brand is trying to do. So if you're doing an event and your audience is what you're selling, and the brand's really interested in engaging with your audience, you have to find a way for the brand to communicate with the audience and engage with the audience. So whether that's a speaking slot, whether that's kind of a meet and greet with some key delegates that you've got at your event. Those are the true benefits of a sponsorship deal. So always try to remember that the logos, it's good to have, and I wouldn't ever say sell a sponsorship and never put logos anywhere because that would be silly, but it is just the icing on the cake. So number 2, get everyone on board. And when I say this, I mean it in its biggest sense, really. Sponsorship, going back to slide 2, I think, I kind of mentioned that sponsorship is very integrated and it involves lots of different mediums. It involves a lot of different people. So when you're running events, you've got, PR people, you've got your marketing team, you've got your boss, you've got your CEO, you've got the program person who's getting all the speakers, a whole bunch of people. Not everybody will understand why you're after sponsorship. And some people would probably argue that sponsorship kind of takes away from the event, which it doesn't. It should add value. So going back to making sure that there's value for the audience. But what you need to do is make sure that everybody is supportive in you getting sponsorship because it involves everybody delivering the benefits. So it's all well and good to sell a sponsorship deal, and then all of a sudden your PR manager is wondering why are you including their brand within the press release that's going out. So in order to make it all work, make sure you talk about why you're doing it and communicate what the benefits are. So a lot of the time, it's not their job to know that actually the money helps fund this event, which has been able to give you the free drinks that actually, the PR manager loves having free drinks. So it's really important to actually just communicate stuff like this and get them on board. Because when everybody's on board, it might be the case that somebody says, oh, do you know what? My best friend works for Coca-Cola, and actually they're looking at doing some events in the local area. This could be a good tie-in. So that's just one of the benefits in terms of making sure that everybody's kind of on board with what you're doing. So number 3, differentiate yourself from the competition. This is really important, and although most people probably will look at it, I'm gonna go very quickly now. Although most people probably look at other sponsorship proposals, actually what you need to think about in terms of competition is other platforms. So you might, let's just say you have a sports event in the community and it's dodgeball, and somebody else is doing a dodgeball competition, I guess, in the next county over. And you are trying to attract, I'm really getting the ball out there because I've got a minute, but you're looking for getting banks. Actually, what you need to look at is not just events that are exactly like yours. You need to think about events, advertisements, magazines, anywhere where people are taking marketing budget away from ideal brands that you want to communicate with. Those are your competitors. So you have to be aware of your competitors in a larger scale than just sponsorship of your event. Number 4, lead time of 12 months. It's important to give people a lot of time, just in terms of planning. A lot of the times, events don't have 12 months, but I think just bear in mind, just use as much time as you possibly can. And finally, get expert advice. There's a lot of resources out there on the internet that are completely free. There's great blogs, there's great white papers and books and all that stuff. And to do sponsorship, it's not rocket science, it's really not rocket science, but it's worthwhile actually figuring out what you're doing before you start it. Because what you don't want to do is go and burn your bridges before. So if you go and sell something that's actually not really a great package and try to knock on their door the following year after they've said no, it's going to be a much, much harder sell. And if you go to our website, we've got 2 lists of top sponsorship blogs you can read. It'll be on our blog site, so you could have a look at that as well. So I'd recommend you do that. Finally, so these are the final takeaway tips. You'll have these slides, so it's not worth me going through because I'm out of time. And also, there's my contact information. Thank you very much.
Well done. Thank you.